Okay.
All right. Thank you, Shauna.
You're
Hi,
welcome.
everyone. This is Kelly David with Prevent Child Abuse Iowa, and I want to thank you again for joining us this afternoon. The next portion of the webinar really is going to focus on ICAPP contract expectations for fiscal year 2013. Some of the requirements will be the same as last year, but there are a few new changes for this coming year. So as we go through the presentation, please feel free to ask any questions that you have. You can either do it through the chat box, or also feel free to follow up with me after the webinar via either or email, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Move forward, Darshana.
Sure.
Okay. Talking about general reimbursement guidelines for ICAPP for 2013, just like last year, you will need to submit a State of Iowa General Accounting Expenditure Form, or GAX for short, in order to receive ICAPP funds. And as a reminder, you can only seek reimbursement for expenses that you've already accrued. So, for example, if you submit a GAX form for the month of July, it would need to reflect the expenses that you incurred in July and not be for maybe an expense coming up in the month of August. So really it does need to be a reimbursement for expenses that you've already accrued. One thing too, when it comes to billing, we recognize that some councils and programs don't always have a lot of cash to float their expenses. So we would very strongly encourage you to bill regularly or on a monthly basis or whenever your programs are operating, so that you have those funds to support the program activities that you have going on in your area. And then finally, as a reminder, your contract must be considered in compliance, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute, in order to receive ICAPP funding. So you will have to be up to date with all the required documentation before we can process your GAX form for payment. You want to forward, Darshana? Thank you. Been a few changes to the GAX form this year, so I would encourage you to make that you are using the fiscal year 13 GAX form that's already available at Prevent Child Abuse Iowa's website, so you can go and get that whenever you're ready. On the ICAPP grantee section under forms, which I think Darshana sort of went over earlier in the presentation. Looking at the GAX form specifically, there are several fields that are going to be the same that you'll need to pay attention to each time, and that would be the accounting period at the top. Your VIN number is still you'll need to fill that in, the council contact information, your contract number. The major difference on the GAX form this year is that where you put in your total price, there's only one category. And we'll talk a little bit about how you account for your line item expenditures in a moment as well. But when you're filling out the GAX form, you'll only need to put in the total amount that you're billing under that contract for that month. Again, it will need to also include an original signature, so you'll have to mail that directly to Prevent Child Abuse Iowa. Only other thing that I would add that you need to make note of for this year is regarding the accounting period. You'll need to reflect your contract start date. So if your contract started, July 10th for the first month of fiscal 13, your accounting period would be July 10 to July 31st, or whatever your contract start date is. If you're sure what your contract start date is, just send me an email, and I'm happy to let you know what that date was. But overall, like I said, it will be much the same. Major differences are going to be how you do the total price. That it would just be the total, and you don't do the breakdown of line items on the GAX form this year. Let's see. If you want to move forward, Darshana. To quickly cover the compliance requirements, in order to be considered in compliant, you will have to get your month report in, and that again is going to be very similar to how it was handled last year. Reports are due on the 10th of the following month. Even if services were not provided in a month, we'll still need the monthly report. Part 3 would be required for any quarterly reports, and then also the tier this year would be that we'd ask you to include your contract number on each report. And the reason for that is that some councils have multiple reports for each contract, and so it's really a way to help us make sure that we're tracking all of the reporting accurately. The next major change for next year is the requirement for the monthly expense report. This really is a tool for councils to track their spending, and we'll take a look at exactly what is on the monthly expense report in this slide, but now just make note that you will need to submit the monthly expense report with your GAX form. It's available on PAI's website. You can submit the monthly expense report via mail if you would like, along with your GAX form, so you can send them both together. If you do that, I would ask that you print the GAX form, the monthly expense report form, in color. And again, I'll explain that in a moment. If you're going to submit it via email, that's fine. We would just ask that you do that within 1 week of submitting the GAX form. So again, to review the compliance requirements, you'll need the monthly report and the monthly expense report, both true and accurate, in order to process your GAX form. Okay, Darshana. So looking at the monthly expense report, again, this is a tool for councils to track how they are spending in each contract. Since we don't ask you to have the breakdown by line item on the GAX form, this is a way for us to be able to see how spending is happening, and also a tool for you to track. So when you go to use this form, again, at our website, what you will do is customize this form with the information that is on the amended budget that you submitted with your contract. And by the way, contracts are coming in the mail this week. So what you'll do is go ahead and customize your information. You'll take the budgeted line items that you have in your amended budget and enter those amounts under the budgeted amount line. And then on a monthly basis, as you go to prepare to bill under ICAPP, you would enter in, let's say for the month of July, you spent maybe $500 in salaries and benefits, nothing in training, maybe $50 in travel, $50 in equipment and supply, or however that happens. The fields automatically have the formulas built in to let you know what your total for the month is, and also by line item, down at the bottom, you can see the balance, what you're spending. The working document, and I think that that's an important note to make, that you wouldn't just delete the information and start each month. This is a working document that you can use to show your totals as you go through the fiscal year. This document is also set up so that it will flag your balance if you overspend in a particular line item. So if you go over in salaries and benefits, it's automatically going to flag that balance field so that you can see you've overspent and go back and adjust accordingly. I hope that you see this as a helpful tool. It really is important that we are showing that we're billing according to our budget, and this is going to be a way for councils to demonstrate that when they're submitting their GAX forms on a monthly basis. You want to go for Darshana? Okay. Talking about budget compliance, as you know, ICAPP is a competitive process, and it is important that we show that we're spending the funds the way that we said we would. To that end, again, a reminder that all billing should be reflected of the original project proposal and the amended budget that you submitted. If you manage more than one contract for your council, it's important to note that you can't shift funds from one contract to another. So, all your expenses for your sexual abuse prevention program need to be billed to your sexual abuse prevention contract, and likewise for the other categories. It's not a fluid funding stream where you can shift from program to program. It really does need to reflect what you submitted in your original proposal. We do understand that sometimes change might occur. You might have changes in programming, or some of your expenses might be more than what you had anticipated, or perhaps less, and that's fine. You are allowed to shift up to 10% of budget line items without approval from DHS or PCA Iowa. If you need to shift greater than 10% of the line item in your budget, that will require written consent from both Prevent Child Abuse Iowa and the Department of Human Services in addition to a new amended budget. That's to be done before the shift is made. So if you need to change programs in the middle of the year, or if you've got grace expenses in outside services, whatever it is, work with us, communicate with us, and we'll work to accommodate the need for flexibility there, but we do need to be aware of that before the shift is made. One other thing before we open it up to some questions, regarding fiscal monitoring for the coming year, Prevent Child Abuse Iowa will be performing formal site visits to a minimum of 5% of all projects funded under ICAPP. The more formal site visits will involve a review of two main areas. First of all contract-specific financial records and expense documentation. So any receipts that you have, invoices, payroll and tax information, we would ask to review that. Secondly, we would ask to review any contract-specific service delivery documentation. So anything that demonstrates that you are providing the services you said you would, whether that's participant sign-in sheets, enrollment forms, or how your program is documenting the delivery of service. While we might not look at 5 years' worth of information, please be aware that you are required to maintain your financial records for a minimum of 5 years, and that would be in the event of a state audit. At this point, I will go ahead and invite any questions that you have. Feel free to use your chat box. Let's see. Let me just review what's come in for questions for a moment. Here's a question. Agency has someone who takes care of the expense reports and billing. Has an email gone out to everyone that highlights these billing changes and expectations? That's a very good question. I have not sent out an email to the entire network. All of this information is covered for the first time here in this webinar that was offered on Friday, and it's also being addressed at the ICAPP regional meetings. I will be making notes from this webinar available as well as the presentations on our website shortly. This is also detailed in a document on our website called Contract Expectations. I think that's what it's called, under the Forms section of the ICAPP grantee part of the web page. Oh, thanks, Darshana. Yes. Yeah, the Word document, Contract Expectations, it's listed there. But that's a good suggestion, and I will go ahead and just email everyone as well. If there is someone else in your council that would handle this, I don't have every single contact person from all the councils on my distribution list, so please make sure that it is going to the appropriate person, if other than the council president. Sometimes I have the fiscal contact information, the fiscal agent contact information, don't have everyone. So please make sure that this information is getting out to whoever needs to have it in your council. But I'll go ahead and send out that email. Other questions? Is the state available in Spanish? It will be.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure when. It is something that Hornby Zeller is working on, the updated version for this year and getting it translated. And I can let the network know as well when that is available.
Yeah. And again, once they're done, we'll let everybody know, but then they'll be posted right there on that website where their pre-post stats are posted. I can't produce a report in Spanish, unfortunately.
Other from anyone? I'm not seeing any further questions. I guess I would encourage you to visit the website and start using those documents as we go into fiscal year 13. And I appreciate your patience and your diligence as we implement these changes. And just know that we are here to support you. We're not trying to create extra work. And if you have questions or if there's anything that I can do to be of assistance, please contact me directly, either via phone or email, and I am happy to help you in any way that I can. this point, I think we can go ahead and end the webinar if there are no further questions.
Thanks everybody for participating and for the great questions today. And we'll get together and do a question and answer if we need to do that with the number of questions that came in from today and last. Okay,
Thank you, everyone.